Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 9th day of October 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show. Up first, we've got, no watches, warnings, or advisories. As the hazardous weather graphics show, no illuminated areas anywhere around the state for tonight and tomorrow, and possibly in through Monday as well. So moving on from there to satellite imagery, you can see clouds across, most of Alaska, some breaks here and there, like up over the northwest interior and along the northwest coast, seeing some clear skies up there, and gusty winds of anywhere from northeast 30 to 40 miles an hour along the northwest coast there from Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area, about 25 there from Point Lay, western Arctic coast, and lighter elsewhere. But areas of light snow along the Arctic coast, especially on the central and east side, and that lower cloud deck up there, some of that extending into the north slope as well. Otherwise, areas of light rain or snow, depending on our elevation, time of day over the western interior, amounts anywhere from just a few hundredths of an inch to maybe nothing at all in some areas, to maybe a tenth to 15 hundredths at the most, those 12-hour amounts, water equivalent. A break over the Alaska Peninsula and the Pribilofs had the next system spreading a streak of clouds there across the Fox Islands, and the heavier wind and rain back out toward AKwx today or mid-afternoon. AKwx reporting gusts of 53 miles an hour out of the south and southwest with about a quarter of an inch of rain with that system. Now pushing in toward the eastern Aleutians, still southwest of the Pribilofs there, and a lot of shower activity and precipitation into the Panhandle, kind of greatly varied and variable rainfall amounts across the southeast coast. Ketchikan just a hundredth of an inch in the last 12 hours, ending at mid-afternoon today, while Hoonah had 1¼ inches of precipitation. Gustavus about a half an inch. About that fell in Anchorage. Had a half an inch at International Airport, Ted Stevens Airport, again ending at mid-afternoon. Otherwise, lighter amounts, just a few hundredths of an inch, Kenai and Soldotna, for example, with showers in over the Copper River Basin and to a lesser extent over the eastern interior areas, again, depending on your elevation, whether it fell in the form of rain or snow. And pretty gusty winds along the southwest coast. Cape Newinam seeing peak wind gusts near 60 miles an hour today out of the west, and 50 to 55 mile per hour westerly winds blew across the Alaska Peninsula today, but not too bad. High pressure building in. Winds coming down, though, considerably currently there. And winds gusts as high as 54 miles an hour at AKwx, southwest Kodiak Island. About 45 miles an hour at Kodiak State Airport with some showers around. Those will end, though, this evening, overnight tonight. And the winds will diminish tomorrow throughout the day. And should see less wind tomorrow at this time than what you saw today. And moving on, again, seeing that loop, the upper level trough slowly moving eastward over the interior as high pressure head of that next system tries to build in or will push in and dry it out over southern Alaska. And again, up to the north, areas of light snow and fog, Arctic coast. Winds fairly light there, gusty on the northwest coast. You can see that downsloping wind flow off the DeLong Mountains and the western Brooks Range, clearing it out along the northwest coast into the Seward Peninsula as well. And some light rain and snow showers, St. Lawrence Island. Winds coming down now, just 5 to 15 knots currently there with the lessening pressure gradient. You can see the tighter gradient supporting those stronger winds they had over the southwest coast, Alaska Peninsula, but that also diminishing. And still pretty windy, though, across Kodiak Island. And southwest flow, wet weather pattern continues with the Panhandle. Again, heaviest rain in the north and a lot more scattered and lighter down to the south. And some scattered showers along the North Gulf Coast, and showers diminishing with some clearing. Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula area today. And next system spreading wind and rain in toward the Fox Islands, definitely in this evening. And Pribilof's in a break with some sunshine this afternoon, a few sun breaks there with light winds. And that'll change, though, tonight. Wind and rain back in the picture. especially as you head toward midnight throughout the evening hours. And then rain and wind also from the eastern Aleutians this evening spreads into the Alaska Peninsula later tonight. As the break moves into the southwest interior, lingering showers, but generally diminishing just over the mountainous terrain, possibly dry everywhere else. Look for some clearing over Kodiak Island with the northwest winds, west-northwest winds, and rain and snow showers again central interior, but to a lot lesser extent east and south of the Alaska Range. Just a slight chance after midnight in those areas, Copper River Basin. And rain and showers continues. Another trough will keep it wet over the Panhandle tonight. Wind's not much of a problem there. A little breezy, but nothing serious. Low clouds, fog, flurries continue for the Arctic coast and maybe the North Slope. Outlook for tomorrow. Again, less of the fog and flurries along the Arctic coast, but kind of persisting there, but nothing of any significance. Lower flying conditions, maybe some IFR, and that's about it. Central interior, weak trough keeps a chance of rain and snow showers, mostly cloudy skies there along the Yukon River Valley area, mostly from the White Mountains northward. South there, just mostly cloudy for the Tanana Valley 40-mile country, maybe some clearing though. Eastern Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, more so for south central Alaska. Looking at a good afternoon tomorrow. Some sunshine, light winds. Kenai Peninsula, same thing. Prince William Sound, showers diminishing in the afternoon, but having a hard time in there, that westerly flow for the southeast coast. And rain spreads into Kodiak Island during the afternoon hours. And along the southwest coast, kind of having trouble pushing inland, but it will get maybe into the southern Kuskokwim Valley, definitely Bristol Bay, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, staying south of St. Lawrence Island. Gusty winds swing in around that system into the Pribilofs. Pretty good west-northwesterlies. Could see gusts maybe 45 miles an hour. And Alaska Peninsula, rain changing to showers. Aleutians looking at a break tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. Central and western Aleutians especially with some possible sunshine, much lighter winds. Winds back up, though, kind of the calm before the storm. That next system driving eastward with good gales, high-end gale force winds coming in to the picture. Same thing for the southeast coast. Winds coming up to 45 knots in the afternoon, Monday afternoon there, with rain increasing to heavy at times along the coast. Same thing for the North Gulf Coast. Storm warnings out for the eastern North Gulf Coast. For east winds coming up to 50 knots. And also brisk conditions, Cook Inlet and Kodiak Island kind of on the western edge there, with chance of rain or snow from the southern Seward Peninsula across Norton Sound and the southwest interior, but much of interior northern Alaska looking pretty good. And for the lows tonight, 20s and 30s, with lower 40s for Kodiak Island, 38 to 42 for the Panhandle, followed by highs tomorrow. 35 to near 50 possibly, especially Kodiak Island and maybe portions of the southeast coast, followed by lows in the 20s to mid-30s, warmer though down toward the coastline, lower 40s Kodiak Island, lower 40s areas of the southeast coast, followed by highs in the 40s to near 50, followed by lows up north, teens and 20s. Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. First graphic Sunday morning, IFR in the North Slope. Marsville VFR for the Arctic coast. Some VFR there over the northwest interior, northwest coast. And central and eastern Seward Peninsula, Kotzebue Sound, Kobuk Valley. More IFR from the Yukon River there southwestward across central Tanana Valley into Denali Park, northern Kuskokwim Valley. Actually, eastern Kuskokwim Valley into the western Alaska Range. VFR, Bristol Bay, Lake Iliamna, and up to maybe Sleepmute. And part of the Yukon Delta coast, looking at some VFR to start. Northern Bering Sea, same thing. And then IFR kind of thinning out as it pushes in toward the southwest coast. They're extending down across the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. Marshall VFR in the Panhandle, Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, Matanuska Valley. And for the afternoon, that area of IFR grabs onto some moisture further to the southwest, so it thickens up a little as it moves into the southwest coast and inland there. Togiak Bay down across the Alaska Peninsula, but south of St. Lawrence Island. And persisting area of IFR in the central interior, otherwise that's surrounded by marginal VFR. Noatak Valley, DeLong Mountains, holding in some VFR there, as well as the western Arctic coast, about Point Lay down to Point Hope. Southern Alaska, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula looking good. Part of the Kuskokwim Valley, VFR eastward, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, southern Copper River Basin, all VFR over to Yakutat, and becoming VFR extreme northern Panhandle, Haines, maybe Elfin Cove, Yakutat, IFR farther to the south. Kodiak, marginal. That becomes IFR as that area of moisture slides and slithers east-northeastward up into western Cook Inlet, and southern Kenai Peninsula slides on into Prince William Sound. IFR for Kodiak Island in the morning. IFR up around the central eastern Brooks Range, surrounded by marginal VFR. Good area of IFR, eastern Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs down the Alaska Peninsula. A little bit of improvement for the central Aleutians. Next area, IFR, pushing into the Shimiat 2 area. Marginal VFR for the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast as well. Tanana Valley looking pretty good. VFR south of the White Mountains. And then for Monday afternoon, VFR in the interior there, including the Alaska Range, some marginal VFR, Talkeetnas, maybe some IFR there right over the mountainous terrain. Otherwise, IFR, big area there for the Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast, and right along the coast of the Panhandle, otherwise marginal for the inside waters. Kodiak Island, IFR. Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, IFR, Southwest Interior, some areas of IFR along with marginal VFR. Next big area of IFR, a lot of moisture, that next system coming into the western Aleutians, spreading into the central Aleutians and the west-southwest Bering Sea, all pushing eastward at a pretty good clip under a good west-southwest jet. And for passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR tomorrow. Same thing for Adigan, mostly marginal. Lake Clark and Merrill improving through the day, starting out marginal VFR but becoming VFR before noon. Rainy, could start out IFR but still becoming VFR late in the morning through the afternoon. Windy, IFR to marginal VFR. Isabel, IFR becoming marginal. And for Mentasta, marginal VFR becomes VFR. And Tanita, VFR. Portage, good VFR tomorrow. And Chilkoot and White, starting out marginal, becoming VFR. Freezing levels at the surface, right along the northwest coast, kind of far to the north there into the Chukchi Sea, but down across Copper River Basin, 2,000 feet there, south of Nunivak Island, northern Bristol Bay, and across the North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle, 4,000 feet, just catching the eastern Aleutians. Icing. Isolated moderate here with that system coming into the southwest coast there, Alaska Peninsula, most of the eastern Bering Sea, but icing free for the Aleutians. And then could be some mixed icing there persisting over the central, southern, southeast coast, but nothing too significant with that. Moving on to the jet stream. Good southwest jet, 150 to 155 knots. General, kind of a big trough of low pressure over the northern Bering Sea into the Russian Far East. Sharpens into a pretty good trough there over the central Aleutians. And to the west, northwesterlies, 130, 135 knots. And then that westerly at about 150, right across Kodiak Island, dives to the southeast, missing the Panhandle. 9,000 feet, 30 to 40 knot winds along and ahead of that system, pushing in toward the southwest coast. Otherwise, pretty light over the interior, except west 25, eastern Tanana Valley, and 40 mile country, and 3,000 feet, 40 to 55 knot winds around that Bering Sea low, heading into the coast, but light over the interior. Turbulence. Considerable moderate chop, southwest coast, St. Matthew Island to the Pribilofs, Fox Islands, and Bristol Bay.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces, undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and a global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Sea ice analysis. Not a lot changed from yesterday. There's new ice forming inside the Barrier Islands. They're continuing to form on the coastal side of the Barrier Islands, and the forecast through the middle of next week, next Wednesday, is in the Chukchi Sea. Northeast winds will push the ice edge 25 to 40 nautical miles to the southwest. And in the Beaufort Sea there, look for the ice edge to move 15 or 10 to 25 nautical miles to the southwest. So southward movement all across the area there, and colder temperatures expected to move in early into the middle of next week, which will help the ice increase right along the coastline. And from there, we'll go to coastal water forecasts, and one more there. We've got north winds 10 knots, Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, 2-foot seas tomorrow, and otherwise central southern inside waters. 15-knot winds from the south or southeast, with seas 3 feet in Stevens Passage to 7 feet in Clarence Strait. Small craft advisories out along the coast, central coast west 25 knots, west 30 knots on the south coast, and lighter winds from the northwest at 15 knots, but seas still at 14 feet there on the north coast. And moving ahead to Monday, high-end gales coming in, south to southeast winds on the south coast, 45 knots, and east-southeast 45 knots, with seas just under 20 feet on the north coast. Small craft advisories for Clarence Strait, winds increasing from the southeast to 30 knots with 7-foot seas, and small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, southeast coming up to 25 knots in the afternoon, and Lynn Canal northeast at 15 with 3-foot seas. Prince William Sound tomorrow, northwest winds 15 knots, seas pretty slight at 2 feet. Same thing for northern Cook Inlet, southwest at 10. Small craft advisories, though, south of the Forelands, west winds 25 knots and 30-knot westerly winds there for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. Western North Gulf Coast, also looking at west winds at 30 knots. West 25 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, seas at about 12 feet. And for the day Monday, small craft advisories, Prince William Sound, northeast, 25 knots, seas 6 feet. Storm warnings, though, for the eastern North Gulf Coast around Middleton Island. Out of the east at 50 knots, seas 20 feet. Gale warnings for the western North Gulf Coast, northeast at 40. Barren Islands, small craft advisories, northeast winds 30 knots. Southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories. Northeast winds 25 knots with 8-foot seas. And northern Cook Inlet, looking at a north wind at 20 knots and seas 7 feet or less. For the Kodiak Island area, west winds 30 knots tomorrow, still a little brisk, slowly diminishing throughout the day, though, into the afternoon and evening. Seas, though, running 7 to 11 feet. Small craft advisories, Alaska Peninsula for south winds at 30 knots. Small craft advisories also for Bristol Bay, southeast at 25 with 6-foot seas. And for the day on Monday, Alaska Peninsula, west winds 40 knots, good gales there. Kodiak Island, 30 knots out of the north. Bristol Bay, small craft advisory, southwest 25. And for the eastern Aleutians, southwest 30 knots, west-northwest 20 to 30 knots, central Aleutians, and west 20 for the far western areas. And then big gales coming in on Monday with that next storm, 45 out of the southwest, 45 knots all the way over to Atka. Gale warnings also for the Fox Islands, 35 to 40 knot winds from the west-southwest. Southwest coast, small craft advisories tomorrow. Southeast winds 25 knots, Kuskokwim Delta coast, east 30 for the Yukon Delta coast, south 30 for the Pribilofs, east 25, St. Lawrence Island. Outlook for Monday, full gales for the Pribilofs, west 40 knots, sea 16 feet, 30 knot winds along the southwest coast, South and Nunivak Island out of the west, Yukon Delta coast out of the north, and St. Lawrence Island north at 20 knots, St. Matthew Island north 25 knots. And for the Arctic coast, eastern Arctic coast, west winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet, light northerlies on the central coast at about 15, and the west side northeast at 15. Cape Lisburn to Point Hope, lighter winds tomorrow, and what you saw today, east sustained 20 knots, and from Point Hope to Wales, northeast at 15. And for the day Monday, east winds 15 knots there for the central and east coast, with small craft advisories on the west side, all the way down to Cape Thompson for 25 knot winds, Cape Thompson to Wales, northeast at 15. For tonight, next system pushing rain and wind into the eastern Bering Sea, southeast Bering, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Rain and snow showers over the interior. Showers continue with areas of rain over the panhandle, but that starts to diminish but persists through the day tomorrow. And rain moves inland a little bit into the southwest interior. Alaska Peninsula, rain increases Kodiak Island. And that's all I have time for. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.